welcome to this Sunday night All Things Natural Net here on the Pharmacy Seeds Network. This is an amateur radio net streamed live to you via YouTube, but the net is actually conducted over amateur radio over our local Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club repeater. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello, Geeky Gardens and Chris Jarvis. Welcome to the chat and welcome to the stream. Well, let's get started. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. The Sunday Night All Things Natural Net is an amateur radio net provided to the amateur radio community here on the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club repeater, the OMARC 146.805 MHz repeater, with a negative shift of 600 kilohertz and a PL tone of 103.5. This net is dedicated primarily to farming, gardening, health, nutrition, and ecology. I hope if you'll join us, you will. That'd be great. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. This is KD2IIN Net Control looking for check-ins. Check-ins, please call now.
KD2, TQS, 10. W2NDG, Neil. Evening, CC. K2LD, Bob.
Alright, so far the net recognizes KD2 TQS, Ken, W2 NDG, Neil, and K2 LB Bob. Are there any further check-ins at this time? Please put your call sign out. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. We'll start at the top of the list. KD2 TQS, Ken, welcome to the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. How are you this evening?
Very good. Back porch, dry, beavers, life is good. Back to them.
Fantastic. Yeah, the summer sounds have definitely shifted to late summer, early fall, but still beautiful, and we had some excellent weather today. So, alright, let's roll on down the list to Neil, W2NDG. For those who don't know, I know Neil is moving into a new place, and we actually just bought a new place, and I hope your move is going well. Neil, over to you.
Well, it's moving some random things in to start, but we're trying to just get things cleaned up and doing some painting and other quick maintenance. But I told you when I moved into this house, I would probably have questions for you. And that is the case. And as time goes on, I'll probably have more. I'm not going to bombard you with all of them in one night, but the first and most important thing going on is we appear to have a yellow jacket problem, and I wanted some advice on dealing with them.
Okay. Well, I'm always open to all your questions, and you can pile them all on tonight or spread them out over time. Doesn't really matter to me. Yellow jackets. Kill them all would be my advice, but we'll come back around to that. I just want to greet Bob into the net here, and then we'll come back through the next rotation, and we'll get into your question about yellow jackets. Alright, let's roll on down to Bob, K2LD. Bob, how are you this evening?
Doing fine. Another day of work for me today, and just sitting back, legs up, and a nice cup of coffee in hand, ready for some good conversation.
Very good, very good. I'm not into my third coffee yet today, but it's on the list for the end of the net for me. Very good. Well, glad to have you along with us, and glad you're home safe, and I hope you had a good day at work. Alright, let's roll back to the top of the list to Ken, KD2 TQS. Yeah, I'm not too keen on either.
A wonderful state of ambivalence. Laughing wholeheartedly and agreeing with your comment on the yellow jackets, and also had a flashback to a time when I was doing some haying, riding on the back of a double sickle bar mower, so you got a big sickle on both sides running at the same time, and thinking it odd that the tractor back wheel suddenly dropped and came up and wondered what went on. And then I saw the swarm of yellow jackets rising up and realized he fell into a hole. And being double sickles, no way I can jump off the thing, so that was a fun experience. That said, I'll pass it back to Ned so we can get to some of Neil's questions.
All right, very good, Ken. I've got a few of those experiences myself. Boy, not fun. I've been stung a bunch of times by yellow jackets. I've encountered lots of nests. I've stumbled across nests mistakenly and been chased at high speeds or as fast as I could run. Yeah, and I fought yellow jackets on top of the roof of a condo complex. So maybe I'll get into that story later as well. But yeah, never fun. And yeah, haying. It reminds me of the stone walls that we used to go along and do the trim after the haying came through. We would go along and trim along the walls to keep the trees down so they wouldn't disrupt the stone walls. And man, we were always hitting yellow jacket nests in those stone walls. All right, with that, let's roll on down to Neil, W2NDG. Go ahead with your question. Hello, Gemini. Hello,
I think
Bomber.
everybody agrees about yellow jackets. I did once run a subterranean nest over with a push mower when I was a teenager, and got
That's never fun.
and ran and left the mower running.
Me too, BP. Fire.
Just kind of sat there staring at it with 2 or 3 stings, and eventually went and got a big broom handle and went running past the mower and hit the throttle to shut it off.
Sorry to hear that,
Sit
Jim.
there running till it ran out of gas. So a couple of observations with these. I did get stung, by the way, and have discovered I'm still not allergic to them. Yeah, but Jill is, so we've been trying to be careful. The 2 observations are, one,
Okay,
they're
Bob.
very aggressive, a lot more than I've ever seen, and that's really odd to me. I've never seen yellow jackets this aggressive. They seem to just come right to you when they appear. That's number 1. Number 2, how do I find the nest? I've been trying to, eyeball them where they're flying, but I haven't had any luck yet. And there's not a lot of them. But when there's 1 or 2 around, they always come right after you. It's really strange.
KG2 net control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. I have seen them both really aggressive and also pretty non-combative. I had a nest here in the barn a couple of years ago that was massive, and it was just in a spot where it was really hard to fight it, so I opted to wait and let the cold freeze them out. So I sort of coexisted with them for about a month and a half, and I did not get stung once, fortunately and surprisingly, sort of. But I was careful how I came in and out of the barn and careful not to agitate them. But when they're really feisty like that, boy, I don't know. And how to find the nest? Usually you can find an entranceway where they're flying in and out, but boy, they can be awfully sneaky. I don't have any great ideas off the top of my head, except to just kind of watch them and see where they go and try to track them, obviously without getting stung in the process. Once you find the nest, the thing that I find is most effective, fastest, and doesn't leave a residue is toluene or brake parts cleaner. That stuff kills them nearly instantly. That said, it's super toxic stuff, as I'm sure you probably know, so be careful not to get it on your skin or breathe the vapors or any of that kind of stuff. But that's my favorite tool as far as that goes, provided I don't have the option of fire, as has been suggested several times here in the YouTube chat. I'll put it back to you, Neil, for further comment. This is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. Hey, Cha-Cha, welcome.
Yeah, all of that.
Nuking from orbit.
Flamethrower, I have to, I guess, probably the best time. Paul stopped by today, said hello, and he said maybe, like when it starts cooling off in the evening, they get slower,
yes.
and you can catch them and look back and maybe. But, yeah, once I find them, they're gone, I know when we first looked at the house, the house inspector had found carpenter bees, which I think are related. They're not actually bees, they're more like yellow jackets, I believe. But those were taken taken care of. They appear to be gone. So I don't know. I just have to make sure they're not like inside of one of the walls or something.
Yeah.
They're not in the house. They're outside the house, but yeah, I just want to make sure I get get them out of there because getting stung wasn't fun. It doesn't hurt anymore. I didn't swell up like crazy. Like I said, I seem to be completely non-allergic to them, but it itches like crazy where I got bit.
Gotcha. Yeah, a couple things. That cooling off thing is definitely a huge factor. They slow down tremendously in cooler weather. I'm not a morning person, as I think you probably know by now, but if you caught them early in the morning, that would probably be their most sluggish time. So that might be the time to go out and take a look and see if you can find a hole under the foundation or a spot under the siding or some sort of location where they're coming in and out of. And then once you do that, yeah, then you have to hope it's not in the house in a spot where it's going to be hard to get to, or you're going to have to cut into it or something. If you do end up needing a bee suit or something like that to attack them, I could always loan you my bee suit, so you have a little bit of protection to get in there and take them down. I'm not really sure, but let's rotate through the net and see if we get any other suggestions here, and then we'll do an opportunity for check-ins, and then we'll come back around. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. We're going to roll on down to Bob, K2LD, and then after that we'll take more check-ins.
Well, my only suggestion for that would be to have patience and sit outside for a while and just look at the air, look which way they're going.
Good evening, Mercurius.
You'll get a pattern. You'll see them whizzing around, especially if you have something they're going to. But you will see them coming in. They probably are going to be somewhere in the house, probably in the eaves. That's usually where they like to settle in, and the best time to attack them is just before sunrise on a cool night, because they'll all be inside, nicely snuggling up and sleeping, and then you can whack them good with as much toxic chemicals as you can throw at them, because you don't want them around, and if you don't get rid of them now, they'll just be bigger
I'm running that.
next year. Because they tend to grow and multiply, they overwinter, and then come back where they
10.
were happy before. So
Yep.
make sure you get them out as soon as is possible.
Okay.
And I do have a question for you, CJ. I'll drop for a sec. And it's regarding the
No, not to
sweet
be on
potatoes.
here, Mercurius.
I know you said to look for when leaves wither, but it seems like the base plants of where I put the seed cuttings in have grown very long stringers. Some of them are about 10 feet long, and they occasionally will have roots down along the vine. Are there going to be sweet potatoes at those points too? I don't want to dig anything up yet.
I find you usually don't get sweet potatoes where the runners tag secondary roots. They usually all produce a cluster at the base of where you planted that original stem, and you'd be amazed when you go to dig them up, even if your ground is really hard, how deep into the ground that tuber will penetrate, and you're going to have to like sort of loosen the soil around them to get them out without breaking them off. Of course, if you break them off, you can you can just cut it clean, or even just let it dry after you wash them, and it'll heal up. But yeah, they should be all right around the base of where you planted the stem, within about a foot or so of that.
And in the fall, they completely get pulled out, and
Thanks, Geeky, for
get
answering
whatever
that. Yeah,
potatoes
local
you get out of
organic.
there. None of that is left over for next year, correct?
Right. Those tubers won't survive our frost here, so you could pull one of those in and save it in a cool, dark place, and then come February or March, pull it out and let it have some light. And when it starts to throw shoots out, you can start taking cuttings of slips, or you could even take one of those potatoes and stick it in like a vase in water with some toothpicks holding it, so it's about half in, half out of the water, and it'll start growing vines, and then you can take slips and make cuttings from that.
All right, that's all I got for right now. I'm still anxious to hear about all the interesting things about the new house. So let's keep it going, and we'll see what else we can do.
Excuse me, people. All right, very good. Well, first of all, let's take a stop here and do an opportunity for check-ins. Frog in my throat. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Looking for any further check-ins, please call now.
This is
KD2RFI.
KD2RFI. With KGBHM to follow.
KD2BHM. All right, then it recognizes KD2RFI, Bob, welcome, and K2BHM, Jim. Let's start with Bob, and then we'll roll down to Jim, and then we'll just double check and make sure there's no further check-ins. KD2RFI, it's up to you.
KD2RFI, good evening everyone. Hope everything's going well. I just actually sat down and called it quits for the day about 3 minutes ago, so I've been listening a little bit about sweet potato roots. But it's been a very hectic day on this end. We did the honey harvest today. Not what I was hoping for, but we didn't do horrible either, so it's a win-win, I guess.
Something better than nothing.
But all in all, good day, busy. I just sat down thinking about it, and this whole process seems to take me 3 days, minimum 3 or 4 days. If we don't have a big crop, it's 3 days. If it's a big crop like last year was, it's 4 days. But it's 1 day setup and cleaning and prepping, 1 or 2 days of harvesting and processing, and then another day of cleaning up and breaking down and winterizing everything. So it's pretty nuts. I'm absolutely exhausted, and
It does work out.
good exhaustion. So we'll see what the final tally is at some point, probably later this week. Now the only other obstacle I have is to find the jars that I use, but we can't find jars anywhere. Everything's back ordered, backlogged, and out of stock. So we'll see how it goes. Other than that, that's about all I've been doing around here. Between that and work, so it's keep me busy. KD2RFI, back to that.
All right, this is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you pulled honey off, and yeah, it is an exhausting chore, and I found it took me about 3 or 4 days too between pulling honey off and spinning it out and bottling it and all that. It's a lot of work, but just like any of these other farm processes, canning or dehydrating or any of that stuff, they are super exhausting tasks. But like you said, it's a good exhaustion. It's very satisfying to have a finished product when you're done. I'm still waiting to see how we do here for honey. I might pull off 1 deep super so far, so not looking great in honey production, but I guess that's sort of in alignment with the season we've had between the drought and the hot weather and all. I'm hoping that as this goldenrod and buckwheat and a few other cover crops I have in open and the nectar flow comes, I'm hoping they'll be able to fill some more of those frames up and end up with a little actual harvest. But that's how nature goes. If not, we'll just roll over and pick it up next year. All right, let's roll on down to Jim, K2BHM.
Thanks, EJ. K2BHM Jim here. And to go off topic for a quickie, my HD1 and my Raspberry Pi Star hotspot came yesterday afternoon, and it's up and running with the help of Paul and Bob, K2LD. Bob was my first digital contact after the parent, and everything's up and running good. The contact list upgrade started about 20 minutes ago, and it's about halfway up, so it's going to take a while. And my firmware is at 1.64, so I got a few updates. So now back to topic. Let me drop a second. Be aware, if you got bees in the ground, yellow jackets or whatever, that little hole, that's a gazinta. There might be 1 or 2 more gazatas. So if you go and attack that hole, watch, they may come out the other end and surprise you. And from past experiences, if you have wasp nests up in the peak inside the roof of a steel shed, Mr. T used to use an oxyacetylene torch to cut into a steel safe was so oxygen deprived that it was a big bushy ball and couldn't melt butter, but it does an awesome number on some wasps. But not advisable if you're in a wood structure. Anyhow, we'll see what progresses from there, Neil. Interested to hear in your stories. KTBHM.
All right, very good, Jim. And yeah, I definitely have to watch out for secondary entrances. When I attack a yellow jacket nest, I go all in and by surprise, and preferably in the evening or morning when it's cool and dark and they're not as prepared. You know, surprise the enemy sort of thing. All right, let's just stop and see if there's any further check-ins, and then we'll rotate back through the list. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. If there are any further check-ins, please call now.
KD2 UEP
Aaron.
Wow, A squared Ron coming out of the woodwork. All right, well, it looks like we have two more check-ins here. KD2UEP K and KC2NDA Aaron. Great to hear both of you. Let's roll on down the list to KD2UEP for now. Kay, pick it up.
Hi. Well, I wasn't going to check in tonight, but this yellow jacket thing has got me interested. It's a bad yellow jacket here. Maureen, mom's former caregiver, had one right in the middle of a bush by her front door, and they couldn't find it for the longest time. It was really embedded in that bush, and everybody going in and out that door got stung. And then Aunt Jeannie's got them right in the side of her house. And we had them by the cellar door, building in a pile of leaves.
Yeah, my
and
dad got
stung
stung
badly, like 15, 17 stings on his hand this year.
Yeah.
So they're very active out there. And let me drop. Very active out there, and anything you can use on them, you know, good luck. Dad just used spray from the store, but you guys got a lot of interesting alternatives. Anyway, just wanted to add that in back to now.
Okie doke, thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. And yeah, they can be bad, and it doesn't surprise me that they're bad this year, given the heat and drought. They seem to thrive more in hot, dry years for some reason. Anyway, let's roll on down to Aaron, KC2NDA. Mr. A squared Ron, how are things with you? I haven't talked to you in a long time. Glad to hear you on the radio and the net.
Yeah, I just turned the radio on, and I heard that you got a net going on, but I don't know what the topic is because I just turned the radio on, and I'm in Highland, so the audio is very, very spot.
Okay, no worries. The topic, current topic is yellow jackets. Neil, W2NDG, has a yellow jacket nest that he's not sure where it is on the new house that he's moving into, and he's trying to figure out how to find it and eliminate it. So if you have any ideas on how to find a yellow jacket nest, other than the obvious follow them back to their nest, we'd love to hear your ideas. So I'll put it back to you for further comment. KC2NDA from KD2IIN.
Alright, well, that's cool. Yeah, he had, one day I had some yellow jackets make a nest up in the eave, and what they actually did was, I had pulled the, soffit, kind of molding down to put siding up, and I never put it back up, and, they seemed to get a little tiny hole through there, and they made a nest up in the eaves up on top where the ceiling is inside the house, and I went ahead and plugged it up. It was a mistake, and they started eating the sheetrock, and they basically ate all of the sheetrock. They ended up dying. I found them all over the house, but they ended up eating almost all the sheetrock. The only thing that was left was the paint, and so yeah, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I found that trying to contain them doesn't work very well. You got to basically just kill them at the source and put them out of commission. And I was saying before, I find The most effective tool that I've used for that is brake parts cleaner. It's also known as toluene. It's the chemical. Super toxic, but it does not leave any residue. So once those vapors have evaporated, you have dead bees and no residue. So that's kind of nice. You do have to be careful around certain plastics and roofing, tar, that kind of stuff. It will dissolve those things. So there are some precautions there, but that's been my experience. All right, let's roll back to the top of the list to KD2TQS. This is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net.
KD2TQS, 3 points on the Yellow Jackets, including 2 ways to find them. One I recommend, one I don't.
Questions.
Drought always makes these guys more aggressive. That's one of the biggest things driving them right now.
That makes sense.
So that's well known, their behavior.
Just like honeybees.
Something about their aggression. Aggression is directly linked to your proximity to their nest. The closer you get to the nest, the bigger the threat to the nest, the more they're going to swarm and come after you.
And that makes sense
So
too.
that is one way to find them, but not the way that's the way I definitely don't recommend to find them. Lastly, they are incredibly sugar responsive.
Yes, they
So
are.
sit on your back porch, put a small tablespoon of maple syrup 5 feet away from you. They're going to come out and gather on that. Then you can follow them right back to the nest and see where they go with that. That way, I recommend, because you can do it more remote.
All right, this is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Well, that's some excellent advice, Ken, and yes, they are very responsive to sugar. I do know that there's a video on YouTube of a guy who built a trap using, it's basically like a bucket with soapy water in it, and then he puts a board on that very close to the soapy water, and I think he had like rotten chicken or something like that nailed to it. And at this time of year, they're looking for protein also to build up their nest for winter, and so they'll come to that, try to get to it, and because the proximity of the water is so close to the board and the chicken, they end up falling in the water and getting stuck. And part of the reason for putting the soap in the water is because it changes the surface tension of the water, makes them sink more easily. So that's another option as far as trapping individuals. But really, it is best to go hunt down the nest itself. But those are some great tips, Ken. Thank you. So let's roll on back to Neil, W2NDG, and see what his thoughts are.
Well, this is great. I love about crowdsourcing an issue is that I've gotten enough information here now that I know what to do. But I also think I know where they might be, because I was watching an area and I was considering that they were, into a hole in the house, but I couldn't find a hole and I couldn't see them coming in or out of anything. And I think what they've done, there's some shrubs right in front of my bay window. But there might be a hole under the roots, which I know where I grew up, I used to find them making nests in among the hemlocks, where the roots would, kind of protrude out of the ground. They would dig under the roots and make nests there. So I think they might be in those shrubs, because
That would make sense.
Kate said something about them being in shrubs, and somebody else mentioned that they're very aggressive as you get closer to their nest, and that's pretty much where I was stung, was right around there. They seem to congregate right between the garage and the front door. So I'll have to keep an eye on it. So thank you, everybody, for the Yellow Jacket info, and I will report back once I know more. Let me drop for a second. On to the next thing. So there's a lot growing around the house. Some things that were planted and some things that are just in the backyard at the edge of the woods. But I'll ask about the stuff that's intentionally there. I have a raised bed right near my first front door. The house has 2 front doors, which is filled with mint. I don't know if it's spearmint or peppermint, but it's one or the other. The drought has it's gotten kind of leggy and scraggly. But I guess I'm wondering 2 things about it. One is the maintenance of it. I assume it's going to die back in the fall. And number two, what's the best way to dry it for using it over the winter?
All right. As far as mint coming back, I would not be concerned at all. If anything, actually, I thought you were going to ask me, how do I take it out of there so I can plant something else in that bed? I was going to say, good luck. Put down a black tarp and wait a year. But it will come back all on its own. You almost can't kill that plant, so that shouldn't be a problem. As far as drying it, you can just pick it and dry it in the sun, or with good airflow, like you would any other leafy type herb, and it'll dry out nicely. Try to limit high temperatures. Try to keep lower temperatures for it, and go for a little bit longer drying time. Might take a couple of days. Although right now we're getting that drier, clearer weather, which will help. I hope that answers your question, but I'll put it back to you in case of further questions. W2NDG from KD2 and Control.
Oh, that's perfect. And yes, I know mint can be a pain sometimes, but it's in a raised bed, and doesn't seem to want to spread beyond it.
Well, I don't mind showing you.
It has. The house has not been, as far as shrubs and such, probably the last couple of years has not been maintained very well. So some of the things, got out of control and were just trimmed back, I think, right when we bought the place. All right. A couple of trees in the front that were planted. One's a very young oak. I'm going to have to keep an eye on it because I know how big they can get, and I don't know. Front yard in a small yard is probably not the best place for a tree that's going to get so big, and then it looks like probably a dogwood next to it. But in between them are a couple of small shrubs that they put in, and I realized right when we were about to buy the house that one of them is a blackberry bush, and it's got berries on it, and it looks like it's fairly healthy even in this weather. The other one I have to try to identify. It's definitely some kind of berry, probably, but not a bramble. Not related to any of those. So I'm thinking, I gotta check the leaves and look at my guides, but it's probably either blueberry or like a gooseberry type of thing. But it's not doing well. There's probably maybe only 20 to 30% of it that's actually alive at the moment. So I want to try to baby it as much as I can through the winter and see what comes back next year. And looking for advice to, see if I can nurse it back to health, or should I just give up and pull it out and put something else there.
Gotcha. As far as nursing it back to health, I don't have any real simple, easy solutions for that. But if you're planning on doing more gardening and growing your own food and that sort of stuff, you might pick up the Nutrilive package from Advancing Eco Agriculture and give it a couple of foliar feeds between now and when leaves come off it. In fact, this, for perennial plants, this time of year, once fruit is off the plants, is one of the best times for building plant health and root mass and plant strength, like sequestering carbohydrates into the root systems and such. And the foliar feed is a great way to do that, so maybe that's an option for you. And I'll put it back to you for further comment or question, and then we'll continue down the list because I don't want to leave everybody else out here. But back to you.
That's fine, I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the blackberries next year. There's only a few left on it, but it looks, hopefully we won't have this kind of summer next year.
Yeah.
And things will do a little better. I have to identify the rest of what's, in the front, and I'm sure going through an entire season with it, I'll know better, so, and the various shrubs and everything. So that's it for this round. I'll tell you about some of the stuff that's growing wild later. W2NDG, back to that.
All right, very good. Well, sounds good. Well, let's roll on down to Bob, K2LD.
Okay, very interesting discussion so far. You had suggested brake parts cleaner. Was that correct for dispatching the little critters?
Yep, it's probably 5 seconds or less and they're dead.
I don't know if you bought any brake and parts cleaner recently, but the environmentalists have attacked that as well, and now it comes in low VOHC solvent formulas, and I don't think it has that toluene in it anymore. It doesn't quite work as well. I have a fresh can of it that I was actually doing a brake job with, and the old formula works way, way better, and it's probably just a lot harder to find, or you have to go out of state maybe to pick up the old version. I don't know if it's still available in New York or not. I really couldn't tell you, but I know I picked up a can recently, and it ain't the same. And there's probably some sort of little disclaimer on the bottom of it that it probably causes cancer in California, which as long as you don't go to California, you're perfectly safe to use it. And that's all I got. Pass it on down.
KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Yeah, one way to get cancer for sure is to move to California and read the back of the label. I didn't realize they had switched that, but I guess I'm not surprised, but a little disappointed. But so I don't know. Other than that, there's the regular bee spray range line, but I find that those are usually oily, or they leave a residue or sort of a mess. And also, I'm not sure what the toxins are in those, but they probably aren't great, especially if they persist. I don't know. I don't have a yellow jacket nest or a need for that here, but if I come across one, maybe I'll pick up a can of brake parts cleaner and try the new stuff and see if that's anywhere near as effective as the old stuff. I would think it would still have some pretty good effect, just probably from the propellants in it and stuff. But thanks for the heads up on that, Bob. I was not aware that they had pulled that as well. All right, that said, let's roll on down to KD2 RFI, Bob.
KD2 RFI. Not a whole lot more to add. Yeah, he's definitely right about the brake spray. I know we're not, for whatever reason, not allowed to have bee spray at work, and so we use brake cleaner. It does work, but not nearly as well as it used to. Or so it's kind of a roll the dice. If you can spray and move quick enough, you'll be all right. But yeah, that's just out there. It's just most of my days spent making tall grass short again, and it's just nest all over. We're finding them in signposts, lampposts. I had them door handle my truck at one time and tailgated the dump truck. It was just nuts. Wherever they can find a little crevice, it seems like they're building. And definitely this late in the season, they're at their peak, and they're getting ready for winter and stocking up on food to produce as many other bees as they can in larger colonies for next year. They're just going crazy. And the drier it is, the more aggressive they get. So it's always fun. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I am going to step off the side. I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. I just want to make sure I checked in real quick, every once a month or whatever it is. It's just been really nuts around here lately, so I'm just keeping really busy. So wish everyone 7-3. It's a pleasure listening this evening. CJ, thank you for running that, and have a good night. Take care.
All right, well, thanks very much for joining the net, Bob. Great to have you check in, and yeah, things have been crazy busy for me too, so I get it. I hope your evening goes well, and I hope you manage to dodge yellow jacket nests and bee stings while you're making tall grass short again. Thanks for checking in with us, and we'll look forward to next time you check in. Glad you got your honeybee harvest closed out. That's good. All right, let's roll on down to Jim, K2 VHM.
Thanks, CJ. K2BHM. Off topic again for a minute. Bob, the call sign database list just finally downloaded after, about 45 minutes. But it's probably because I'm running the Windows program through the Wine interpreter on Ubuntu. And Neil, yes, you were right. Communications error. But you go into Regedit and create a link between com1 and /TTY/USB0, and everything works fine. So
sounds kind of
that worked. Anyhow, back to topic. Bees. My cousin
blue raspberries
made me a carpenter bee trap. You take a chunk of pine, section of branch, maybe 4 inches diameter, 4 or 5 inches long, something like that.
Where are you at?
Drill a 1-inch hole up through the bottom of it, 3/4 of the way through, and then some 1/4-inch holes up at a 45 to integrate the center trunk, and take that and put it on top of a like a mayonnaise jar or something like that. Drill a hole up through the center of the mayonnaise jar and screw it to the bottom so the bees smell the pine, they find the hole, they go up inside. They're too stupid to turn around and come back, so they get down the big bore and get trapped in the mayonnaise jar. So works for carpenter bees, and I caught some wasps in there, so I don't know, maybe it'll work. And as far as mint is concerned, funny story, Mom and Dad used to love fresh mint in their gin and tonics. So Mom decided she'll plant some out in the backyard and have some fresh whenever she wanted it. So a couple of sprigs, and next year she had probably about a 3-foot diameter patch, and the year after that it was probably a 10-foot diameter patch, and the year after that was probably a 30-foot patch. So kill it every year. She'll probably bring it down to a usable quantity. So anyhow, anything else going on with the house, be happy to help. We got all kinds of tools and experience and whatever. Just say so, and we're all here to help. KGBHM.
All right, very good, Jim. Yeah, I tried all sorts of various different traps when I had that huge nest here with very limited success. All different baits, all different kinds of stuff, and I just couldn't make a dent in that population, and I couldn't even get them to draw interest in most of the stuff I put out. So I don't know what resource they were going after, but it was more interesting than whatever resource I was trying to put out for them. But all good tips. Thank you, and glad your code plug download is going well. With that, let's roll on down to KD2UEPK.
Hi CJ, hi everybody. I think my battery might be low, so if I drop out, I'm sorry. I hope not.
Tough princess.
That's funny about the mint. Mint's supposed to keep ants away from the house, and planted by the foundation is a good thing. As to drying it, I dry all sorts of things just on a thread along the ceiling in the summertime. If I'm coming through. Am I coming through, CJ?
Yes, you are. You're doing fine.
Okay. I just tie a thread to hooks in the ceiling that I hang plants on in winter, and I dry comfrey and nettles and wood betony and valerian and all sorts of things out of the field that I want for herbs for winter. And I just hang them over the wire. I string the comfrey leaves through them, and they do very well. I do have some things in a small dehydrator. Put some of CJ's corn silk into a dehydrator. That's good for various things in a tea. So,
corn silk, that's
good
one I
luck
should
with
be
the drying
saving too.
things, Neil. And I get a picture of that nest being in the bush somewhere. I don't know. That's why I got on the net when you talked about that nest. I thought about Maureen's nest and how we couldn't find it, but it was embedded in the bush. So maybe you want to have a look at that. Okay, back to net.
All right, very good, Mom. And yeah, I do the same thing here. I have a couple of wires strung up that I hang different herbs over for drying. Depending on the weather, that works really well, and sometimes not as well. But yeah, it's a good tip. And yeah, I would say check those bushes for sure. They're probably in the bushes somewhere, or like you were saying, maybe down in where the roots are exposed, or they dug a hole. They're pretty ingenious little creatures. All right, with that, let's roll on down to Aaron, KC2 NDA. KC2 NDA from KD2 IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. If you're still with us, Aaron. Oh, that mysterious mobile man. He's hard to stay on top of. But I imagine he reached his destination, so we'll consider him signed out for now. And let's see, it is 9:45, so we'll just do one last quick opportunity for check-ins, and then we'll do a hot rotation back through the list as we go by around. All right, so if there's any further check-ins, please call now. WA2MJM/R. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. We're going to roll back to the top of the list to KD2TQS. Ken.
KD2TQS. Comment for Neil.
That's great,
Oak in the front yard reminds me of when I was in England touring around. They actually make shrubs out of oak trees. Not
yeah, I was going to suggest pruning.
But there are ways
hey,
they
YT,
trim it down
that's
and trim
okay.
it back, and you can either make a dwarf tree or actually just a shrub out of it. I don't know how, but it might be something you want to look up and see. That's all I have. Back to that.
Yes, good call on the oak, Ken. I was thinking the same thing when you talked about that tree. Prune it back and make it what you want it to be, but don't let it get too big before you start doing that. All right, with that, we're back to Neil, W2NDG.
Alrighty, yeah, it's definitely beyond shrub stage at this point, but I was thinking about that, getting one of those long, tree pruners on the pole and learning how to top the tree, let it fill out a little bit, but shape it, keep it, at a decent size. But yeah, definitely don't want it to get too big. I mentioned I would tell you what was in the back. Things I found growing wild. One of the things about this house here, and CJ, you've heard me, talk about the wild edibles, and Ken, who knows a lot about them too, we've, had discussions about it. The house here in Poughkeepsie is boring. There is nothing interesting growing here. I was almost delighted when I found that there was purslane growing along the edge of the road this year, but that close to the road, I usually won't harvest it. Let me drop for a sec. I haven't done a lot of heavy searching at the new place, but I have already found a couple of really interesting things. I have chestnut trees. One of them technically is in the vacant lot, but, the branches are definitely way over my side, and the vacant lot's owned by the guy I bought the house from anyway, and I seriously doubt he would mind me harvesting chestnuts unless that's the only reason why he kept the lot. There's another one directly behind my shed, which is definitely in my yard, and they are chestnuts. They're not horse chestnuts. They're chestnuts. I don't know if they're like the English variety, and that's why they're still alive, or they are some of the rare, still living American chestnuts, which do exist.
Really?
One more drop. I also have several young, but definitely old enough to produce nuts, black walnut trees.
Yes,
so
Cha-Cha.
it's going to be interesting. Other than that, I found, wild bramble canes with the berries dried up.
It's the female version of
Chances are they're,
chestnuts.
black raspberries or black caps, because that's usually the most common thing around here. And a lot of pokeweed, which will get cut back next year. I know one way to cut it back is to harvest the shoots and not let them grow, like asparagus. So, we'll see. But let me throw it back to you for comment, but yeah, that's what I've found so far.
Well, that sounds like a nice collection of stuff, Neil, and I'm the same way. Anything anywhere near a roadway, I try to steer away from it. Only time I would harvest anything from near a roadway would be, if I absolutely couldn't find it anywhere else and I absolutely needed it. Concerns with runoff toxins and exhaust and all that sort of stuff. But that's awesome. Pokeweed, yeah, that is some nuisance when it gets going. I have some here that's managed to establish itself, and I've managed to keep most of it down through mowing and weeding, but there's a few that have that nice deep root system in, and I mow them back or pull them out of my beds, and they grow back, and I've been fighting back and forth with them. But, it is what it is, I guess. Anyway, I'm glad to hear you have a nice collection there. Glad you're kind of settling into your new place, and if you decide that you want some other wild edibles or something, you want to take a collection and do a transplant. I have lots of stuff here. I'd be glad to share some of those with you. All right, with that, let's roll on down to Bob, K2LD.
Yeah, it does sound like you have a pretty interesting collection there. If that was really American chestnuts, boy, would that be a score. That would be amazing. Because if you actually go out in the supermarket and buy them, they're like $6 or $7 a pound for decent ones.
Is an awesome score.
You can't even find decent ones sometimes. As far as
Slacker.
black walnuts goes, they're
Eat
not exactly
chestnuts,
my
slacker.
favorites. I think they're a lot more labor intensive than it's worth of what you get out. But I'm sure you can make something good out of it.
Slack master be
That's
extraordinary.
about all I have. But Neil, if you do need a hand with something, do give me a shout. I often have 2 or 3 days off in a row, and
Check that.
have a good collection of all sorts of goody tools to give you a hand with in case needed. So don't feel that it's an obligation. Just put it out there if you need it. And that's all I got. And roll it on down. Back to that. K2LD.
All right, thanks as always, Bob. Greatly appreciate it. And yeah, the chestnut trees is a super score. I wish I had those, and also the walnuts. I don't remember if it's the English walnut or I don't remember what the variety is, but there was one that the neighbor to my parents had when I was a kid, and we would go down and pick up a truckload of them. We'd dump them in the driveway. We'd let that green hull turn black and kind of rot off, and then we'd stomp them off with our boots, and then we'd bring them in and open them up with a hammer. And man, those wild ones are so good. I hope to get some of those on my property again, somewhere far enough away from my garden beds that they don't the toxins that roots produce don't cause problems. Anyway, let's roll on down. Let's see, K2 RFI is checked out, so we're on down to Jim, K2 BHM.
Yeah, thanks, BJ. No, nothing much more to add. Just enjoying the conversation. And,
So sweet. Hey, D.
Thinking about
Welcome.
chestnuts roasting on open fire. That's too soon for that.
Way too soon for that. Yeah, Jim, way too soon for that. That makes me think of that 4-letter word that starts with S. It means white falling stuff from the sky. No, thank you. All right, let's roll on down to KD2 UEP.
Hi, CJ. Dr. Nydia up in Tivoli has a wonderful
Yes,
chestnut
Tivoli.
tree, and she's got a great recipe. She makes
What up,
little
D?
chestnut cookies and feeds one to all of her patients who come through. And
Sounds
it's a good
killer.
recipe if anybody wants it. And Neil, that is a real find if you've got a good tree. On the squirrel story, let me drop. One year we had some black walnuts. This is a continuation of CJ's narrative.
Making me hungry,
and
Bomber.
we didn't open them all up, and we put
So
some out at
hungry.
the end of the winter for
Oh,
the
the squirrels,
red
the red squirrels.
And they kept
They were
coming
so
up
fun.
to them and lifting them. And some they put down, and some they take off with. And I thought, what are those squirrels doing?
Hefting them
So I went
to
out
see if
and
they're
I
any
tested
good.
these nuts that we threw out there and opened them. And let me drop. The nuts that were very light had all spoiled inside, and the squirrels had just set them back down and not bothered with them. And the nuts that were heavier were good inside still and had good meat in them. So that was pretty funny to watch them. Anyway, back to you, CJ.
Yeah, I forgot all about that, Ma. That's, you know, it makes sense if you're a squirrel and you have to gnaw through all that hard shell with your teeth. Boy, you better figure out what nuts are good and what nuts are bad before you get through all that, huh? Thanks for relating that to us, Mom. All right, this is KD2 Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. We're going to just give one more chance for Aaron here in case he's back in the vehicle or something, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this net up. KC2 NDA from Net Control, KD2 IIN if you're around. Last opportunity. WA2MJM/R. Alright, looks like Aaron is checked out, and that concludes the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. So with that, I've got a few announcements. Every day at 8:35 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. we have the OMARC Daily Nets, the morning net and the evening net. Come check in with us and share how your day went, or look for help on topics or whatever sort of thing you want to talk about. Just sort of a community check-in sort of thing. Sunday nights at 9 p.m., which is this net here, is the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. That's also streamed live via YouTube over the Pharmacy Seeds Network YouTube channel. Pharmacy spelled F-A-R-M-A-C-Y. And Thursday nights at 8 p.m., Dave runs the Thursday Night Net, which is usually a topic-oriented net related to amateur radio or some other technical subject. Dave runs an excellent net, and there's always excellent discussion and subjects brought up there, so I hope you check those other nets out. If you want to know more about our club, you can always visit our website at www.omarcclub.org. That's whiskey, 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 Oscar, Mike, Alpha, Romeo, Charlie, Lima, Lima, Uniform, Bravo, Oscar, Romeo, Golf. And this net is officially closed, and this repeater is back under regular amateur use. Thanks to all those who participated. This is KD2IIN saying 7-3 and inviting you to join us again next week. The net is officially closed. Everyone have a great evening. KD2IIN will be clear. That's the net, peeps. Whoop, whoop.
Are you still there, K2BHM?
So, guys, I know Geeky shared the link earlier in chat. I don't know if you still got it handy, but if you're not aware of the Paranormal Portal, please come over and check out the Paranormal Portal with us. It's an awesome show run by our good friend Bert Thomas, and he investigates all sorts of paranormal topics: ghosts, yowies, yetis, Bigfoots, night terrors, portals, you name it. He investigates it and brings us all sorts of interesting stories, and there's a great community of people over there in the chat, so I hope you come over and check that out with us. That said, this net is officially closed. Geeky, thanks for sharing the link, and we're headed over to the Paranormal Portal. I'm just going to take a quick look here in chat and make sure I didn't miss any questions. I don't see any questions. If I missed any questions, I'll try and catch them perhaps Tuesday. Oh, also, don't forget, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday morning, 12 a.m., we have Comrades in Farms that streamed live here on the Pharmacy Seeds Network YouTube channel and also on Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception. Thanks for everyone who participated. Thanks for joining the chat. Graciously appreciate your support, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday.
She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over